Hey guys, what we're going to be looking at today is how to graph linear inequalities. So we've looked at inequalities before, and if you guys remember, that's the greater than or less than stuff. But now what we're going to do is instead of just having like x is greater than 5, we're going to look at this with a straight line on an xy coordinate plane. So when we have these, we're going to graph each linear inequality, and we're going to state the equation of the boundary line in slope-intercept form. So what that means is first, I need to get this to look like slope-intercept form. So I need this in y equals mx plus b. As a quick reminder though, since we're dealing with inequalities, we're not going to have a equal sign. We're going to have either a greater than or less than equal sign. So let's go ahead and look at this. The first thing what I want to do is get y all by itself. So I'm going to divide both sides by -1. This will give me y minus 7 is less than or equal to, oops, I already made a mistake. Since I divided both sides by a -1, that less than sign will flip to a greater than or equal to sign. And it'll be -3 over 5x. Then all I do is I add 7 to both sides. So I'm going to have the equation y is greater than or equal to -3 over 5x plus 7. So now all I do is I graph this by starting at my y-intercept, my starting point, which is +7. And then I'm going to go down 3, 1, 2, 3 over 5. And then I can go ahead and do that again. Down 3, 1, 2, 3 over 5, which would be right here. And let's see if I can go one more. I can go up 3, 1, 2, 3 over +5. Now what you need to do is on an inequality, it could either be a solid or a dotted line. In this case, since it's greater than or equal to, we are going to have a solid line. So let's go ahead and graph this. It's a solid line because of the greater than or equal to part. So it's kind of like equivalent to, remember when it's either a shaded circle or an open circle? Well, with an inequality, graphing inequality line, a linear relationship, it's either going to be a solid or a dotted line. Now what it's saying is I want you to graph any value that is greater than -3, greater than this line. So to do that, all I usually do is I go to my y-intercept, and if it's greater than, I shade up. If it's less than, I shade down. In this instance, it is greater than, so all I would do is shade up, and I would shade everything above that line. Okay? Now, another thing, method you can do is you can plug in this point right here. This point 0, 0. So what it's saying is if I plug that in, 0 is greater than or equal to -3 over 5 times 0 plus 7. This would simplify to 0 is greater than or equal to 7. That is a false statement, so I would not shade that. In fact, if I plugged in any point below this line, I would get a untrue statement. Okay? Now the last thing it asks for a boundary line. That's just the equation of this line. So all you do is replace that inequality with an equal sign. So my boundary line is y is equal to -3 over 5x plus 7. That's all we do there. So let's go ahead and look at the next one. I want you to notice this does not have a less than or equal to sign. It's just less than. This is also one of those special case scenarios, and you can tell because I don't have any y values. It's only going to be an x value. So to solve this, what I do is I subtract 2x on both sides. This will give me 2x minus 5 is less than +7. I then am going to add 5 on each side, and this would give me 2x is less than 12. Then I divide both sides by 2. To get x is less than 6. Now remember, this is one of those special case scenarios where it's just x equals, or excuse me, x is less than, so there is no y value. Therefore, I'm going to have a vertical line. So I go to my x-axis right here, and I'm going to look for 6, which is right here. And since it's an x equal / x is greater than or less than, what I'm going to do is draw a vertical line. Now, as a reminder, since it is just less than and not less than or equal to, this line is not going to be solid. It's actually going to be dotted. So if I go grab my dotted line and I just go a vertical line, let me get a different color than black so we can see it. So then what I would do is just draw a vertical line going up and down like this. And that would be my equation of the line. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to shade all the numbers that are less than 6. So if I go here on my equation, and if I want to look at all the numbers that are less than 6, that would shade everything to the left. So it would look something like this. And that's how I graph my inequalities. So all this would be shaded. And basically what this means is any point I choose over here, that would mean that my x value is less than 6 would be true. So if I plugged here, is 0 less than 6? Yes, that is true. Is -5 less than 6? That is true. But if I plugged in a point like 10, is 10 less than 6? No, that is not true. And as a boundary line, it just wants to know the equation of this line. And that would just be x is equal to 6. All right, last one. This goes back to a linear equation. Remember, we're trying to get y all by itself. And I want you to notice this is going to be a solid line because it's greater than or equal to. It's that or equal to that makes it a solid, not a dotted line. So the first thing I want to do is minus x on both sides. Once I minus x, I'm going to have -1 over 4y is greater than or equal to 2x minus 1. Next thing what I want to do is I want to get the y all by itself. So I'm going to do that by multiplying both sides by -4. When I multiply both sides by -4, I'm going to have positive y. Now, since I multiplied both sides by a negative, my inequality switches directions from a greater than to a less than or equal to. And this will be -8x plus +4, because a negative times a negative is positive. So now all I do is I go to +4, which is right here on my graph. I'm going to go down 8 over 1. So down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then over 1. All right, so then from here, I'm going to go ahead and draw a solid line. And as a reminder, it's solid because it is greater than, it is less than or equal to. It's that equal to that makes it solid. So as I finish drawing my line, I need to figure out where do I shade. Do I shade to the right or to the left? This one's pretty tricky because it's such a straight line, but once again, I go to my y-intercept and it says y is less than. So since it's less than, I shade down from the y-intercept, which would be everything on this side. So then I just shade in the rest over here. Let me actually make that way bigger so it's easier to shade. There we go. So it would be everything on this side. All right, and the last thing I need to do is I need to figure out the boundary line. And the boundary line is just the equation in the line. And all I do there is I turn that inequality into an equal sign. So my boundary line is y equals -8x plus 4. If you guys have any questions on any of these inequalities, please feel free to email me or your teacher. Have a great night, guys.